Today is Thursday, September 23rd, 2021, 7 o'clock in the evening, actually 7:01, and this is the Select Board meeting, Town of Bolton. First up is a recommendation of the Town Clerk Pam Powell to allow Bolton to remain as a single precinct.
Good evening,
Pam, you're up.
everybody. Thanks. This year, they've gone through quite a process that I hadn't done 10 years ago. But after the federal 2020 census was completed, they did obviously an actual count of our residents, which was 5,665 people. And per Mass General Law, once you reach the threshold of 6,200 residents, not voters, residents, it's necessary to divide your town into 2 precincts. So we have remained under that threshold, which I'm just as glad about. So I recommend that the board vote and sign the documentation that I need to send back into the Secretary of State's office, single precinct authorization form and the record of vote memo. And then we send back the giant map that is all one color and will remain one color for one precinct, and we're good to go.
Well,
did you have any questions or anything?
Not from me. Gentlemen, do you have any questions?
I'm fine.
So when we get over that hump, we need to have 2 voting places?
Yes. Well, you can hold the 2 precincts in the same location if you have the room, but it's basically, 2 check-in books, 2 checkout books. It's everything is divided.
Okay.
But
Yep, sounds good to me.
okay. Oh, plus the fact that won't happen for another 10 years. It's
Okay.
based on the federal census done every decade. So we're good for 10 years.
So you're off the hook for 10 years now.
Off the hook for 10 years. Yeah.
There you go. I like that.
Why?
All right. Do I have a motion to vote to have Bolton remain as a single precinct?
I move that we execute the single precinct authorization form.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Roll call, Sikansky,
Aye.
Keep,
Aye.
Wysocki.
Aye.
Great, and that will be in the yellow folder. The warrants are also upstairs for signing, so there's lots of stuff for you guys to come in and sign.
Okay. We'll be in bright and early. Sounds good. Thank you, Pam.
Oh, thank you, guys. Good to see
Thank you.
everybody.
Have a nice night.
You too.
All right, next up on our agenda is to consider a request from Parks and Recreation Commission to hold a Halloween parade on October 31st. Do we have someone from Park and Rec here? Going once. Going twice.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not seeing anyone, but as it says in your packet, the chief has no issues with it and has made a recommendation for how it can be done.
Well, what are they planning on doing as far as safety in regards to COVID?
As far as the COVID, I mean,
Yeah.
It's outdoors, so I'm not sure what would apply.
We are a few minutes early from the agenda item, so we might consider waiting till 7:10, and hopefully Lisa will be on the call by then.
All right, I guess we can do that. Well, let's park that for a moment and we'll do the next agenda item and see if someone comes from Park and Rec. Next up is consider a request from the Lions Club to put up 2 A-frame signs to advertise cider donut sales at Shartner Farm at the Bolton Town Common Road, well, at the Bolton Town Common, and at the Berlin-Wattaquatic Hill Road intersection. Do we have someone from?
I think we might run into the same problem there, because I
Park and
don't
Rec.
see
I think
Andrew.
Craig Lauer
Yep,
is a member of the Lions Club.
I was going to say that.
Oh, good.
Great. Hi, Craig. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm actually not supposed to be the person talking about this, but I certainly don't mind addressing it. It's the same deal as last year. A-frame signs that go out at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, maybe 10 o'clock in the morning, and come back in at around 4 o'clock in the evening on Saturday and Sunday,
Okay,
and I guess Columbus Day Monday.
okay. So it's for a finite amount of time,
Yeah,
correct? Okay,
it's ending Halloween weekend, I think.
yep. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. Gentlemen, do you have any questions?
I support this.
Yep, I do too. So, motion to approve?
I move we approve the request from the Lions Club to put up 2 A-frame signs at the specified locations from Columbus Day weekend to the end of October.
It's actually starting 2 weeks ago, but we didn't put them out until this
Right.
weekend.
Starting tonight to
Yeah.
the end of October.
Second,
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Roll call, Sikansky,
aye.
Keep,
aye.
Waisaki.
Aye.
Thanks.
And I
Thank
do,
you.
I see that Lisa Sheppel appears to be in the meeting now.
Okay, so we'll go back to the Park and Rec item.
Hi, sorry.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks.
So can you give us a little background on what you're planning to do and how this, I mean, especially how it relates to COVID is being handled?
Yep, so we are gonna meet at the town common at 2 o'clock, and there's gonna be a performer there singing and doing some songs and some reading a story. And then from there, I think it's 45 minutes. And then from there, we're gonna go across the street. Chief said it was fine. He would have an officer there crossing the kids, crossing everybody. We're gonna walk down Main Street to Mechanic Street. He's gonna block off Mechanic Street. Gonna do the Halloween lane there, everybody giving out candy. We can separate everybody too. And then we're just gonna end at the back and not use the school, and no party, more or less. We're just gonna have the lane, the candy lane.
Sounds good.
Gentlemen, do you have any other questions?
Nope.
All right, do I have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the request from Parks and Recreation to hold the Halloween parade on October 31st.
Second,
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Great.
Roll call, Sikansky,
aye.
Keep,
aye.
Waisaki.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
Thanks, you too.
I see that Phyllis is logged in, so we can go on to the next agenda item, which is the dangerous dog at 79 Lancaster Road. Phyllis, can we get an update from you as the animal control officer?
Yep, I went out to 79 Lancaster Road, met with Chris. He was going to show me the interlocking floor that was in his shed that he had asked if it would be appropriate for the floor of the kennel. He actually didn't have that. It was a plywood floor. Let's see. Monica has offered different, something she found for a kennel at the Tractor Supply Company. With a roof, with some kind of canopy over the top. I don't know if there's any physical wire or anything hard underneath of it. The way I read it, that the size of the kennel is 4 feet wide and 4.5 feet high. She also showed an extra gate and 2 extra panels to put as an entryway. Nothing about a doghouse yet. There was a roll of wire shown that she had planned on purchasing with approval to put on the floor. And that would attach to the sides because to avoid digging it 2 feet down. And then they were also going to purchase, which wasn't on the list, but they're going to purchase I planned on purchasing a rubber floor for it. So the dog's not laying on wire. That's what she's proposing.
Okay. Gentlemen, I know we had some discussion at the last meeting. That's why we had this.
Can I interrupt for just a moment? This was a sensitive issue and we're ahead of the agenda. And I'm wondering if we're going to get ourselves into trouble by continuing at this time.
No, you will not.
We will not?
This is not a public hearing. This is just a selectmen's agenda item. And
Okay.
Ms. Danaher is present.
Okay,
And so is her attorney.
okay.
Um,
We're both on.
I think one of the things we discussed potentially at the last meeting was a number of items. One was to potentially amend the August 19th, 2021 decision to actually reflect what we had voted on, since there was a transcription, a slight transcription error in what was actually crafted. And I think actually I would prefer that the decision be amended to reflect what we actually voted on, so that everything is consistent with what we discussed and what we voted on last time. Gentlemen, you have any questions on that?
No,
Discussion?
I would agree with that.
I agree as well.
Okay. So I believe Mr. Lowe is there. Can we put up an amended decision which includes the particular phrase about the double gate that was inadvertently omitted from the last decision?
Yes, I think the board and Attorney Murphy can correct me, but I believe that the board just votes to amend the order to for the sole purpose of addressing the Scribner's error. And it would include the language regarding the double gates, which you had stated at the previous meeting, and which is in the minutes of the previous meeting. So
Okay.
I think a motion to amend just for that purpose is appropriate.
Okay, well then I guess that unless, is there any other discussion, gentlemen?
No,
So I will move to amend the order for the dangerous dog at 79 Lancaster Road to correct for the Scrivener's error and add the appropriate language regarding the double gate to the order.
second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Roll call, Sikansky,
Aye.
Keep,
Aye.
Waisaki.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
How are we able to address the structure with the ACO that Monica was able to identify with the two doors?
I think
Because-
questions, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, I think
Sure.
questions from council to the ACO would be appropriate outside of the meeting, now that we know that the amendment.
They're not questions. So my client had sent email correspondence to Ms. Tower regarding a structure that fit the bill, including your two gates. Ms. Tower indicated she couldn't approve anything until tonight without input from the board, to be clear. So my client still can't purchase anything because Ms. Tower won't approve it without the board, even though it has two gates,
I think
despite the fact that the order wasn't amended until now.
Thank you, council. I think your questions to ACO Tower are ones that can now be addressed after the hearing. And I'm sure she'll reach back out regarding now that the order is amended, she can reach back out after, but there's no further vote for the board to take. So it's not necessary to have this addressed at a select board meeting.
Okay, so just to be clear, with the new order coming out, including the double gate, the ACO has the ability to approve the structure that my client has sent.
The ACO can provide guidance as to whether she feels it falls within the criteria, yes.
Great.
Thank you.
I would like to take a moment to just bring the neighbors up to date, because this has been somewhat convoluted at times. But basically what this, may I do so, Stan?
Please go ahead.
What this order amended directs is that the dog can be on a leash with a muzzle for off-premises walks. anytime if it's on the property, it either has to be in the house or it's got to be in a pen that has a roof over it. And that pen has to have a doghouse in it. And a double gate at the end at one end of the pen. And I would, if the neighbors see any violation of this, they should call the police or call the ACO. And the police or the animal control officer may be in the middle of something else. So if they can provide some documentation of what's going on at the time, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're done with this particular agenda item. Next up is a discussion of the dangerous dog situation at 42 Fox Run Road. And we'll get an update from the animal control officer, Phyllis Tower.
Yeah, I've reached out to the owner by email and have gotten no response back. I had asked to come view the property that he currently had without making any changes so that I could see where the changes were going to be made, and I'm not getting any answer back.
Mr. Chair, I can provide a further update for you on that.
Certainly, please.
I received an email this afternoon from Mr. Newman. I reached out. His attorney had filed paperwork to withdraw from the appeal himself, and the court allowed that. Mr. Newman is currently unrepresented in the appeal, although he can certainly pursue it himself. He indicated to me this afternoon that he's trying to engage new counsel to continue to pursue the appeal. Just before this meeting started, I did email him back. The appeal is scheduled for 11 a.m. next Thursday, September 30th in the Clinton District Court. I will reach out to the town about obtaining some witnesses for the magistrate appeal. I did also advise Mr. Newman that because the date had been set for several weeks, that if there was going to be a request for a continuance, that it happened this week. Otherwise, we would object if it happened next week, just due to the effort we'd be putting in to prepare for it.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. All right, I guess this is a to be continued.
It is.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right then, well, moving on. Hopefully we have, we're actually way ahead of schedule. Don, do we have folks from Good Leaf Holdings for the 58 Main Street opportunity?
We do not as of yet, but I would be delighted to give my town administrator's report in lieu thereof.
Don, we would absolutely love to have your town. It is the high point of every selectmen's meeting, or select board's meeting, I should say. So please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's see, first off, for the COVID-19 update, I received a report this evening that we have 7 new cases over and above last week. As you know, last week we had 9 new cases. The previous week we had 15. So while we have new cases, the number is trending somewhat downward. And yesterday afternoon, for those who are not aware, the Board of Health met and voted unanimously to issue a message to all town businesses, strongly requesting that that they have people wearing masks when indoors, but it is not a mask order. In fact, the actual notice that was voted on, that was sent out to the businesses, or is being sent out to the businesses as a suggestion. This is not something that must be used verbatim, but it says, help protect those currently unable to be vaccinated and reduce COVID-19 spread. The Bolton Board of Health recommends all persons wear a mask indoors in public spaces. So that's a message that's in the process of going out from the Board of Health.
Okay.
I haven't done the calculation for the actual percentage of people eligible age 12 and up that are vaccinated, but it looks to be approximately 91.5%. It's been trending up 0.2 to 0.4% a week. So I would say 91.5% or slightly higher than that. So that's, we continue to head in the right direction there. The grant update that I would like to give, I just sent the email to the selectmen this afternoon. The police department was applied for and was rewarded a grant in the amount of $9,900 for traffic enforcement. We can never have too much traffic enforcement. People are always requesting it. So that'll allow us to have some extra patrols out there. That'll be funded by the grant. The update on the select board packet material deadline policy that Jenny and I have put together, and really this is administrative for us. This is more informational, so you're aware of what we're doing. But the policy that we've put together, which I think will be very helpful to all of us, is packet materials for Thursday evening select board meetings are due no later than 1 p.m. on the Monday prior to the scheduled meeting date. Any materials submitted late will not be shared with the select board prior to the scheduled appointment and may result in the cancellation of the appointment if the board feels they have insufficient information on the topic. Monday holidays do not impact the deadline. So just to try and put some structure in.
Yep.
And it's not because of any one incident. I don't want to create that impression. Jenny and I have been talking about this for some time, and we just felt now was the time to put this in place. It can only help you be prepared for meetings, and it can certainly help us as we try to get things organized for the meetings.
No, I think it's great. I mean, this is a long time coming. We've had this discussion for quite some time, and if an external entity can't get the materials to us in time, then they need to wait for the next meeting.
And one last thing, and this is something I did not send out an email on. It's strictly informational, but I think it is very exciting, if that's the right word. Kristen Noel, our treasurer, went out and sought bids for our 1-year ban for borrowing, which was actually 9 months because it's October now and we want to get back on the June cycle.
Yep.
So we advertised for bids and we got three banks bid on us. The winning bid for our interest rate for our loan that went out is 0.38%. It is
That's
far and
great.
away the lowest interest rate I've ever seen. And the bids were 0.38, 0.39, and 0.40.
That's great.
And that is directly attributable to our AAA bond rating.
Yep.
We absolutely would not be getting rates like that if it weren't for that, for the work that Kristen and Nanachka, our financial advisor, and others, advisory put in. And just so you know, the actual note is for $505,931, which is made up of Long Hill, Spectacle Hill, the Taggart property, and the dump truck. So those are the
Yep.
borrowings that we rolled over. So it is about as close to free money, quote unquote, as you're going to get. There's no such thing as free money, but I never thought I'd
Pretty
live
darn
this.
close.
I never thought I'd live so long to see such an interest rate.
No, I think that's fabulous, and everybody should be congratulated. And I know there's a lot of discussion about tax rates and everything else, but it is testimony to the fact that this town is run very well to get that kind of interest rate and to have a Moody's rating of AAA. This is not easy stuff. And I think everyone in town government needs to be applauded that we were able to achieve that. There aren't many towns that have this. So we are, to everyone who, to the contrary, we are very fiscally responsible. So congratulations to everybody. Thank you, Don. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I just noting with that Craig was on here. So we have one advisory committee member on, and I haven't even emailed this out to advisory yet. This is, late breaking news that I wanted to share. I'll make sure that I get the word out to Brian and everybody tomorrow, and advisory plays a role in this as well. And They shouldn't be overlooked. They've been very supportive in the policies that we wanted to implement.
Great.
And unless the board has any questions, that is all I have for my update tonight.
No, thank you very much, Don. Let's go back. Do we have folks from 58 Main Street that we can cycle back to that agenda item?
I don't see Mr. James as of yet.
Yep, he's there.
Yes, he is here, and Dennis
Oh.
Cardiff is here too.
I beg your pardon.
Do we have everyone that needs to be here for this segment?
I think Mr. James is muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. We don't have everyone here because we were scheduled for 7:45. So we told them to be ready at 7:40. But let me see if I can text them and get them all here. I'll do that now.
All right, well,
Can we do town administrator or town select board business?
yes, we can. That'd be fine. That'd be fine. So
Right.
while Mr. James is gathering his folks, we'll continue to move on since we are just zooming ahead here. It's almost like a time machine.
That's why they call it Zoom.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much. All right, select board business. Are there any public service announcements?
No, thank you.
No.
Okay, I'll just say, not everybody's vaccinated, and there aren't any good reasons if you're not. There are only a couple of good reasons why, and there's still a good number of people from a count. You need to get vaccinated, and we got to end this nonsense, and we got to end this pandemic. So please consider getting vaccinated, and wear a mask when appropriate. Be aware of your fellow citizens. So that's all I have to say on that. Next up is to approve the bills and payroll warrants for W22-6 and W22-6A. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Roll call, Sikansky,
Aye.
Keep,
aye.
Waisaki.
Aye.
Thank you.
And I think we have one set of minutes to approve this evening.
That is correct. And then 1 sec while I get those. And there were no changes. I could share them on the screen if you'd like me to.
Sure, please do.
Jonathan was not at this meeting, just for the vote.
Okay. They are
Short and
voluminous.
sweet.
They are voluminous. All right. I'm
Yes.
fine with them. I'll take a motion to approve.
I move we approve the minutes of the August 9, 2021 select board meeting.
I will second those. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Roll call, Sikansky,
Aye.
Keep,
Abstain.
Waisaki.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, hopefully Mr. James is gearing up because we're running out of agenda items so we can deal with.
Okay. I'm having trouble seeing everybody who's joined.
Mr. Chairman, if it would be helpful, I don't anticipate the executive session taking more than 10 minutes. If Mr. James would find that helpful, and then we're already posted to come back into open session.
Is that okay, Mr. James? We sort of segue out for a few minutes and you can still gather your flock and we'll come back to you.
That would be very good, Chairman. Thank you
Yeah,
very much. I
Very,
appreciate it.
happy to do so. We
Yeah, we're
will,
gonna disappear is what's gonna happen,
That's right. That's
Okay.
right.
and then we'll come back.
We'll come
Okay.
back.
All
So
right,
I-
Yes.
you'll disappear from Zoom or you'll,
Well, actually, what I'll do is I'll move everyone into a waiting room. So in addition to not being able to see us, you won't be able to see one another, but hopefully that'll give everyone enough time to enter the meeting, and I'll let everyone back in when we
Great.
vote to return
Yep.
to open session.
thanks, Jenny.
Okay,
welcome.
sounds good. All right,
All right.
we'll see you on the other side.
So you have to make a motion to vote go
All
into
right,
executive.
so I
session.
will move to enter executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, for purposes 2 and 3 to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, specifically the town administrator, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining for the Teamsters Union, Local 170, the Bolton Police Union, Local 286, IUPA, AFL-CIO, as the chair finds that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the board's bargaining position. The board
Second.
will return to open session.
And to review and approve executive session minutes if we have. them.
And, yeah,
Second,
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye,
Aye.
Roll call, Skansky,
aye.
Keep,
aye.
Waisaki.
Aye. Do we have a motion to approve renewing the town administrator's contract for the next 3 years?
Yes, I move that we renew the town administrator's contract for 3 years, starting July 1st, 2022.
Second,
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Roll call, Sikansky,
aye.
Keep,
aye.
and Waisaki.
Aye.
Thank you. And I do have a copy of that in the yellow folder as well.
Okay, we will get to that tomorrow. All right.
Again, thank you very much. I appreciate your continued support.
You're very welcome, Mr. Administrator. All right, so the only business left is a discussion for an update from 58 Main Street, an update from Goodleaf Holdings.
Thank you very much. Selectmen, we can handle this any way you want. We know you've have probably had a chance to review the materials, so we can either take you through it. We can take you through only the slides that we didn't get to last time. We can take you through the whole thing, or we can field questions. I assume you want us to take you through at least the new slides, though, and perhaps the whole thing. What would you like to do?
Gentlemen, do you have a preference?
We kind of jumped around last time and went through things quickly. I think an orderly progression would help us and everyone else who's concerned or interested in this project.
Okay, great. Is it okay if I bring up the presentation then?
Sure.
So that everybody can see it?
Yep.
And Jenny, I assume I'm allowed to share?
Yes, excuse me. I did change the privileges.
Okay,
Mr. James, please be mindful, we have about a half an hour scheduled for this.
okay,
so-
okay,
So,
all right. Can everybody see my screen?
not yet.
Okay. All right.
Would you like me to bring it up on my screen? I have it from our website.
Oh, sure, Jenny, that would probably be better. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move to the next page, Jenny. Okay, so this is what we've done since really the first meeting. We did send the biographies, which I know you guys had a chance to look at and gave feedback on. Appreciate that from last call. We have met both before the last call and subsequent to the last call to various people, including Don and Valerie and Rebecca and the chiefs. We have met with Bill Brookings and we've also met with the Bolton Board of Health. We prepared and published the public notice. We also sent them notices via email, and we are on for September 27th from 6 to 8 p.m. That's Monday. And I believe Don has agreed to preside over the public notice meeting. That will also be live streamed, by the way, from Bolton Access TV. And we have drafted a proposed HCA. We have not had our lawyers look at it. It was just my drafting. And I did submit that probably almost 2 weeks ago. And so I don't know if you've gotten that yet, but if you haven't gotten it yet, Don does have it. Next slide, please, Jenny. Obviously, we're meeting today. As mentioned, September 27th is our next meeting. We are going to have some follow-up conversations with the Board of Health. By the way, I sent them the same materials that I sent all of you. They wanted to see the odor and noise sections of that. So they have that as well. And then, hopefully if, sometime after you've had a chance to gauge the abutters and residents' reaction, if it's okay, then we would like to enter into the HCA negotiations with the town, and we would hope. I know it's a bit of a stretch, but we would hope, if that all goes well, to sign an HCA by October 14th, so that we can then move on to the special permitting process and the CCC application. Okay, Jenny, next slide, unless there are questions. So this is just a review of what's to come. Joel Frisch is going to talk again, basically give somewhat the same presentation he gave last time. We did update those slides a little bit. Jacob will again talk about the septic and site water management. And Jacob's slides are as they were last time. Eric has a few slides on water recycling and conservation. Eric Gath also has a long section on odor control that he'll go through, and that'll take about 10 minutes total, that odor control. Then I will address noise, traffic, security, and community plan. Okay, Jenny, next. Okay, Joel, you ready?
I am.
Great.
Thanks very much. Joel Frisch from Northeast Geoscience Incorporated in Clinton, helping out with the water needs for the project. So there are two basic types of water use proposed for this project, domestic water and irrigation water. The domestic water would be handled by the existing public water supply well that is on site. That's a permitted well that is currently inactive and will be reactivated through the Mass DEP permitting process. We've already contacted DEP. They've given us an outline of what it is they want us to do for that. Most likely it will involve installing a water treatment system on that well to treat iron and manganese that's been historically detected in the water. And that well has a restricted yield of 960 gallons a day. They cannot exceed that amount. And that from the proposed use, 960 gallons a day is probably far in excess of what they would use for domestic water. The irrigation water on the site will be handled by a proposed irrigation well. The irrigation well would be a standard 6-inch diameter bedrock well, typical for the community. The maximum daily demand for the irrigation system is on the order of 6,000 gallons a day, but with water reuse and recovery systems would probably reduce that down to about 1,800 gallons a day. The public water supply well, as I mentioned, will go through a permitting process through DEP. The irrigation well will go through the permitting process through the Board of Health, and we will work with Bill Brookings at Neshoba to devise a testing protocol to test both of the wells simultaneously to prove that they have the yield that we need for the site, but also to prove that there are no impacts on nearby residential wells. The nearest residential well in the neighborhood is over 500 feet. It's probably closer to 600 feet away. So you're looking at, 2 football fields away from the nearest private well. So we wouldn't anticipate any impacts on private wells, but we have to do the testing to identify that. So that's basically all I have. It's pretty simple. They have pretty minimal water use requirements on the site, and the groundwater sources that we're proposing for that.
I have a question, if I may.
Yeah.
If you see yourself using less than 2,000 gallons per day, why are you looking for a 6,000 gallon per day well?
the 6,000 gallons a day is a maximum that the facility would use. But because you're reusing water, you're actually recovering water and reusing it, you actually reduce the actual amount that you have to take out of the ground. So the facility will use 6,000 gallons, but only 1,800 of that will come out of the ground on a typical day. And as Jacob will mention when he gets to the wastewater system, some of this water is being tight tanked and disposed of as basically processed water. And so he can mention, he can discuss sort of the details on that. But because this water is classified by DEP as a processed water, it has to be actually disposed of off site. It can be treated on site.
That wasn't my question so much as why are you looking to get 6,000? Why are you? I understand that you're going to use about a little less than 2,000 gallons per day, but you don't need to if you're going to use a maximum of 6,000, you don't need to pull that all in one day. So I don't understand why you're looking for. I mean, to me, a 6,000 gallon per day permit gives you the ability to pull 6,000 gallons a day out of the ground every day of the year.
Yeah, the irrigation well actually as a private well would not be limited on the withdrawals, but the withdrawals for this facility wouldn't exceed 6,000 gallons a day. And with the reuse system, if you didn't have the reuse system, it would be 6,000 gallons a day. But because we have the reuse system, your demand is significantly reduced.
Well, why don't you reduce it to 4,000 gallons a day or 2,500 gallons per day?
Well, it's 1,800 gallons a day is what the demand.
No. But the amount that you want to be allowed to draw.
Well, again, the public water supply is limited in the amount that they can withdraw by regulation. The irrigation well, like any private well in town, is not limited. The withdrawal volumes are not limited.
So if you wanted to draw more than 6,000 gallons per day, you could?
As any resident in town could, yeah. And many often do who have large irrigation systems and swimming pools or a farm, for example.
All right. I'm sorry. I thought that this was a question of getting a permit for 6,000 gallons per day. It's not. No permits required in terms of the amount on the irrigation well.
Not for the irrigation, correct.
All right. I'm sorry. I made an assumption there.
Yeah, but still, 6,000 gallons a day is 2,190,000 gallons a year. That's a big number. And even at 1,800 gallons a day, that's 657,000 gallons per year. And there's no residence that's going to need 6,000 gallons per day to fill a swimming pool.
No, but the typical irrigation system, we typically assume a 5,000 square foot lawn, which is in many communities is a very modest lawn. Most communities, in this area most people have lawns much bigger than 5,000 square feet. And if you just look at the demands on a typical house, you're talking a 5,000 square foot lawn at an inch per week over a 16-week irrigation season. You're looking at 50,000 gallons for a lawn over an irrigation season. And so the numbers do get big when you start extending it out over a year, but the picture on the screen there, that bucket with the hose, that's the amount of water that we're talking about for the entire facility for both domestic and irrigation requirements. That stream of water filling the 5-gallon bucket.
Yeah, every minute of every day of every year. Yeah.
Right. And for example, this amount of water coming out of that hose is pretty close to what you would need to serve 66 age-restricted condominiums, for example. It's a modest amount of water when you consider, first of all, when you consider that they are unrestricted in what they can draw, so as any resident in the community is, they're completely unrestricted on the private well withdrawals. But we're being upfront on it and saying these are the demands for the facility. The 6,000 gallon number is really not the number you should be considering, because that's what the facility will use. But the withdrawals we're talking about are on the order of 1,800 gallons a day.
Yeah, I was under the impression that the irrigation water was limited, similar to the domestic water. And okay, I understand it's not anymore, but okay, it's still a big. So yeah, okay. I appreciate you being upfront about it, but it's still a lot for us to wrap our heads around.
Joel, what do you suppose a golf course would use a year, like the International or the smaller golf course next to it?
A golf course, by definition, uses, just according to regulation, it's assumed that they use 100,000 gallons a day in irrigation water, which is 70 gallons a minute, which is, obviously we're talking an order of magnitude higher than what we would use on this facility.
Okay, and I think you'll see later on, gentlemen, that when Eric Gath talks about the recycling, that the 1,800 assumes that there's we're recycling about 70% of the water, and a lot of the time it's up to 90%. So it may even be less than that. I mean, we don't know. We haven't spec'd out everything completely in terms of all the equipment that's going to go in, but it's usually about 70 to 90%, I think. But Eric will talk more about that, and Jacob can talk about the septic system, and maybe after those you'll have a better, a fuller perspective once you've seen all the information. Does that sound okay? Should we move on to Jacob and Eric?
Yep, that's good.
Okay. Joel, this is your slide.
Yeah, that's just for reference. It just give you some distances to the nearest budding wells, which are down on the southern end of the map, and then the you can see the location relative to the septic, the existing public well, and a proposed location for a private well. So it just kind of gives you an idea of what the dimensions we're talking about.
And if our hosts have any questions on this slide, please feel free to ask before we move on to the next slide. If you don't, we'll move on to Jacob Lemieux.
I don't have any questions.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Jacob.
Afternoon. My name is Jacob Lemieux with Hancock Associates out of Marlboro. We'll be taking care of the site survey, layout, any site improvements that need to be included on the permit, special permit site plans. We'll be responsible for the Title V system evaluation. The site does currently have two existing septic systems, one designed for 75 employees and another that we do not have a septic design plan on. So we'll be working with the Board of Health on evaluating and identifying the capacity of that existing system, as well as continual inspections as once operations start up to ensure that they're operating properly. And as Joel had hinted on earlier, and this is the processed water, just by law, we cannot just dump that into the ground, even through a gray well, a dry well. So we've got to either put in a processed water holding tank, which is generally on a site like this, that would be the most economical and also the most realistic option. What that is, it's going to be 500% of the daily wastewater capacity. So we're looking at probably that 1,800 gallon per day number, which would mean about a 9,000 gallon holding tank. We'd have to work out a pumping schedule to have it periodically pumped out and taken to a proper treatment facility off-site. So a concern with this may be that we are removing that 1,800 gallons per day. There are opportunities to regain that water into the groundwater system there. We can capture roof drain runoff to reestablish and dump that water back into the ground. So while it would have an impact on the groundwater eventually from just pulling it up and removing it, there are ways to mitigate that and remove those concerns. So I think that's basically all there is on my slide here, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I don't have any.
Anybody else have any questions?
No,
ready
I'm
to
good
move
right
ahead.
now. I'm good.
Okay, Eric, you want to talk about the irrigation and water use?
Sure. Eric Gaff from BLW Engineers. So I'll touch on the irrigation water use in conservation. So this is a proposed 20 to 30,000 square foot of canopy. So there's essentially 20 to 30,000 square feet of grow area. So the plants will require an estimated 4,000 to 6,000 gallons of water per day for watering purposes. We need to test that water to determine if specialized water treatment is required or if standard filtration will suffice. A reverse osmosis or some other specialized treatment can potentially increase the water usage by 20%. That's where that 70% number came from that Ben was talking about. Essentially, we're looking to recycle more than 90% of that water without that RO usage. Minimum of 1 day of fresh water is stored in a tank in the water room. So when we say 4,000 to 6,000 gallons per day, that first day you're going to use 4,000 to 6,000 gallons because you're going to fill that tank. From there on out, you will not need 4,000 to 6,000 gallons. You're going to need to use hopefully 3,600 to 400 to 600 gallons per day. That would be wastewater. That's the hope, maybe even better. So just to describe that system, I'll just kind of give you an overview of how to water the plants. So
next level precision and raw phase technology featuring raised microribs for control over every.
Fresh water is injected with nutrients. Water is then pumped into the grow rooms to water the plants. So you have that fresh water storage tank after it's been treated. So we take in the well water and filter it, and then we basically inject it with the nutrients, pump it out to the plants, and then there's a spike in the plants and essentially feeds that fertilized water to the root bed. 90% of that water is consumed by the plants, sometimes 90-95%. The other, as if you're watering a plant in a pot, there's some runoff at the bottom we call leachate. That would be the wastewater that we're talking about. The plants utilize the nutrients. Water is then transpired into the room, and we use an HVAC system to dehumidify that air, and we capture that water and we pump it back to the water room to store in another tank. And that's how we reuse that water. And like I said, again, it's 90+% of that water we try to save. If we need an RO system, you have, like I said, 20% more waste, and that would be 70+%. Like I said, there less than 10% of this irrigation water will percolate out of the soil. I touched on that already. So with the condensate reclamation system, the facility will need between 400 to 1,800 gallons per day. Does anybody have any questions on that? Is that clear?
Okay,
Yeah,
I think
I have no
Eric,
questions.
I think Eric has one more slide on the water, maybe. The next slide, Jenny. Oh, maybe this is just a repeat. Sorry, I didn't realize there's two copies.
And that was it. Everything was on that one slide. I just wanted everybody to kind of get an idea of what how the plants are watered and how we're reclaiming it. It's basically evaporated into the air. We reclaim it with the HVAC system. And then it's just a continuous loop. And the only wastewater is if you overwater, which most facilities do slightly. You don't want to underwater. So you just water. So there's a little bit of leachate coming out of the bottom of the plant, and that gets dumped into a drain, and that gets stored in that tight tank. And over time, the facility will actually dial in the water usage so good that you'll be able to reduce that wastewater, on a yearly, weekly, monthly, yearly basis, so that you don't have as much wastewater.
Any questions for Eric?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, Jenny, let's move to the odor section. Eric's also going to present this.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of run through this quickly, and then if we want to go back to any of the slides, some of them have a lot of technical data on them, and I don't want to bore everybody, so we'll run through it quickly. So as everybody probably knows, marijuana produces an odor, and this building is going to be filled with marijuana, so we need to come up with an approach to odor control that will be successful. And I believe this multifaceted approach is very successful. So the first step in odor control is building pressure. So if you could go to the next slide, I'll kind of demonstrate. Actually, sorry. Building next slide, please. So I'm kind of showing the building pressure here. What I'm showing is negative pressure in the corridors. The exterior rooms are the plant rooms, the rooms with plants in them. What we do is we build these rooms so that, and then you put them through a blower door test so that they're leak tested. We control the HVAC system and ventilation system so that those negative areas are essentially pulling the odorous air into the corridors. This is preventing any of those odors from escaping out of the building. In those negative pressure areas, there's an exhaust duct system that exhausts the air out. And before it's exhausted out, it is treated. So if we could go to the next slide. The second step in the odor mitigation is secure air. It's a MERV 13 filter with an electrical charge. And this is in all of the air handling units in the flower rooms, the rooms with plants in them. So air is actually circulated through these filters at a minimum of 30 air changes per hour. So every 2 minutes, there's a full air change in the building. And this secure air filter helps reduce odors within that room. So if this is air that's actually staying in the building. So without this, the room's going to smell worse than it would if it does. It'll still have some odor, but this reduces it significantly. Next slide, please. This is just kind of a background that's being used all over the US and how it works. Next slide. This is the technical data. Essentially, it's a MERV 13 filter, which is a high efficiency filter. And I've actually had this in my office. I've had it in my house, and I've had it in other marijuana facilities, and it's very successful. We actually put a particle counter in the room. And once you activate this filter and you start circulating air in that room, it reduces the particulate tremendously. And that is effective at reducing the odors and the terpenes in the air. And this is there, you'd have to read more up on it, but that's just a quick summary on that system. Next slide, please. Next. So this is kind of showing you how it works. It's essentially charging the particulate that's in the air, and it actually helps them collide to become bigger particles. So then the next time it comes through the filter, it actually can collect more of that particulate. Next slide. Next slide. Right there. Okay, great. So now that we've reduced the air in the flower rooms, and we have fresh air coming into the flower rooms, we're reducing the odor in the flower rooms, and now any leakage out of that flower room goes into the corridor into an exhaust system. And the first treatment within that exhaust system is carbon filtration. I'm sure you've heard this many times. It's very effective. It's been around for many years. Next slide. Next, please. So it's used in all different industries, as you can see on this page. Next. This gets into the adsorption, the chemistry of it, how it absorbs odors. We can get into that, but I don't want to bore everybody. Next slide. Next. This is just kind of a cut sheet on the ones we'd actually be putting in the ductwork. Camphil is one of the leading vendors of manufacturers of carbon filtration. Next slide, please. Okay, so the second line of defense in that exhaust system. So like I said before, with fresh air into the flower rooms, we're controlling it so that there's only one exhaust system or one, two, or three exhaust terminations in the building. We try to keep it at a minimum, and that way any air being exhausted is running through this same exhaust system, running through these filters, and then at the discharge of the air, we're shooting it straight up into the air, and we're placing these nozzles into the exhaust outlet that emits a misting, fogging system. It's called Fog Cub, and what they're using is essential oils to essentially counteract the odors. So next slide. So it's a scientific subtractive odor control. It's a neutralizer, not an additive. It's not a masking agent. It's not a perfume. Essential oils introduced via high pressure fog mix with airborne malodors, resulting in a series of reactions to include antagonistic pairing, absorption, and adsorption. It's all types of chemical reactions, but essentially what it's doing is absorbing the odors and neutralizing them so that you cannot detect them with the human nose. Next slide. So that's it, really. In summary, we are strategically pressurizing the building so that none of that odor is escaping, and then we're treating it essentially 3 times before it's exhausted into the atmosphere. And if you have any questions, feel free.
No, it sounds like you've got things fairly well covered in terms of the multiple steps to filtrate the air coming out of the facility.
Yeah, this is a pretty hot topic. Early on in this industry, a lot of the medical marijuana facilities that were able to opened in industrial areas. And it wasn't really a concern until all of these facilities opened. And now we're kind of doing damage control, and we have to, from here on out, make sure that these odors are not detected. So yeah, we throw everything in the kitchen sink at it to make sure that there are no complaints.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Next slide. Eric, I may ask you to talk a little bit about noise control if there are any questions.
Absolutely.
But because Eric is somewhat familiar with this, but what we've planned is several phases. The first phase is to measure the baseline decibel level with sensors. Then we'd obtain the Mass DEP community policy requirements for the decibel levels. It's generally within 10 decibels of the quietest period that's measured, and it's measured over at least 24-hour periods. So it captures all times of day and over, I think, a number of days. Eric probably knows better than me, but I think that's the case. And then we meet with the Mass DEP and set the goals that they set for us. Then we work with the engineers and noise consultants to select the preliminarily select the equipment. We then have a noise control expert who we have lined up from Ascent Tech to then model out the equipment's effect on the noise environment and the environment in general. And then we finalize the equipment selection. If the model shows that the equipment doesn't do enough, then we make changes to the preliminary equipment chosen and finalize the equipment selection to meet the requirements. We will, there is going to be a very efficient internal HVAC system. Each room, we're going to have at least 8 cultivation rooms and maybe 12, and each room will have its own system so that we don't have any whole crop problems, and so that we can vary our strains and make the business more successful. We'll probably have an external cooling tower. We would probably place the tower on the north side of the property away from the Bolton Woods Way people, so that the building would be blocking any potential noise out of the tower. And then there are certain things we could do internally. We have to wait and see what the decibel levels of the equipment we've chosen are, but there's a lot of different equipment options that we could use. And that's all I was going to say on noise control. Are there any questions for either me or Eric on this slide?
Just a question. What's this cooling tower?
So for a facility this size, we typically go with a chiller or air-cooled chiller or liquid-cooled chiller. A cooling tower would be used, or a chiller. If you're using a cooling tower, the cooling tower would pump water to an indoor chiller or heat pumps, most likely a liquid-cooled chiller. That cooling tower has a fan, and water is pumped through essentially a radiator, and that fan blows air over the radiator to cool the water. And that cooling tower is typically the loudest piece of equipment on the facility, that and a generator. And what we do is work with the Centec. We use all different types of technologies, ultra low sound fans, sound wall, all different types of technologies in order to keep within that 10 decibels of your baseline. And essentially, Centex any acoustical engineer use pretty high-tech software that's able to model acoustically what it will sound like at different locations on site, depending on your decibel levels of that piece of equipment.
It's also probably worth noting that because the facility is unoccupied and because it's a 24-hour test, it will pick up the decibel levels, the increase of 10 decibels, and because we won't be operating 24 hours a day like some places. It's gonna pick a baseline that's quite low, where there's really no activity from the building. So these are going to be very tightly controlled by the DEP regulations. I think you'll find. In all probability. That's right, Eric, isn't it?
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on noise control?
Not at this time, not for me at least.
Okay. Jenny, do you want to move to the next
Bob,
slide?
you're on mute.
All right, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
I was on mute, but I have a question about noise.
Sure.
My question is, and you might have answered it in response to the last question, is aside from employee traffic and their automobiles, what kind of commercial traffic will be going in and out of the parking lot there outside of normal business hours, which I, just off the top of my head, I would say from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. What kind of commercial traffic would be going in and out of facility outside of normal business hours?
Well, there will be the requirement to probably transport the wastewater. That can probably happen during normal business hours, though. Most of the deliveries to us are going to be light. We're probably going to use a hydroponic system, which means we were considering soil, and that would have created some deliveries of soil, which is heavy, and would have required an occasional substantial truck. But it looks like now we're going to use a hydroponic system that would also probably be delivered during normal business hours. And we really don't expect much outside of normal business hours. The deliveries that we make to customers can be handled via vans because the product is flour and very light, or it's processed materials, which are tiny and concentrated and also very light, and not only light, but also small. So you can fit in a cabinet that is 6 by 6, $10 million worth of finished product at retail. So we really don't expect a lot of traffic outside the employee vehicles, which will be a combination of passenger cars and trucks probably. And those outside the hours will probably be the night shift people. And we expect those numbers to be lower than the normal business hour traffic. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, great. Any other questions on noise control?
Not for me.
Okay, Jenny, can we move to the next slide? So currently there are 3 means of egress or ingress between Bolton Woods Way and the site. The plan is to close off, and I've got a diagram of this after this slide, but the plan is to close off and landscape the upper and lower means of egress, ingress with either a berm and some landscaping, or some landscaping, so that they are no longer egresses or ingresses, and then convert the middle egress ingress to a one-directional means of egress ingress. And by one directional, I mean right now that middle egress is split. There's a kind of an island of some landscaping in between, sort of a triangle that allows you to go in and come out in different directions. We'll do whatever the town wants, but I think what the direction we were given was to make that sort of one option, and then put a breakaway gate on it for emergency vehicles, one wider option, wide enough to take emergency vehicles, and put a breakaway gate there. So it will normally be closed off unless emergency vehicles need it, and then they can just push through the gate. All regular egress and ingress will be from the site's dedicated driveway, which, let me see, is, I think, to the east it's towards the Stowe line from a Bolton Woods Way. So The traffic levels, we've kind of gone through this, but the prior tenants had 75 plus employees. They had a lot of incoming and outgoing supplies. Many of them were mechanical products, so they were heavier than what we're going to have. We plan only to have 55 employees, and that's maybe up to 60, probably not more than that, and could be less, could be 43. If there are soil deliveries, which I now doubt, it will be infrequent. And so, as you perceptively asked, surmised, it's going to be mostly employee cars and passenger trucks. And I spoke about the outgoing deliveries and the nature of the products. So those will be small vans.
Yeah. One comment I'd like to make, and I'd like to have the other selectmen opine as to whether they're concerned about it too. But I'd like to minimize traffic going in and out of there during the times when the bus is coming to pick up or drop off kids on Bolton Woods Way.
Okay. All right.
That was a concern on the previous application because it was going to have a retail component, but I don't see that as being, we don't shut down the Bolton Bean or other businesses when school is letting out or coming in. So I don't think it's, something that we should be imposing on a business.
We will look to you guys for direction, and we'll take whatever direction you give us. So just let us know what you decide on that through Dawn, perhaps.
Okay.
And we will accommodate whatever is necessary.
Assuming we're going to commence negotiations on a host community agreement, that's something that can be discussed in that venue.
Exactly.
Great idea, Don.
Yeah, I understand it's not the same degree that it was with a retail operation, but I'd just like to think about that some more.
Sure. And, just let us know. And, we're obviously, most of the traffic is going to be employees. It's going to be up to 40 or between 40 and 60 probably. And we can, if it's a concern, we can try and arrange the shifts so they don't coincide with the bus. And that would probably speak for almost all the traffic because
Yeah.
we're going to have very little traffic outside of that.
Okay, well, that's something to consider in the HCA. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions about traffic control and traffic levels?
I don't have any at the moment.
Anybody else?
No.
Okay. Jenny, can we move to the next slide? This is just a
I think we
diagram.
need to speed it up. You've gone well over your half hour, so if we can.
Oh,
we can,
okay. Okay.
wrap it up.
All right, we will wrap it up. Then I don't think this diagram is worth going through. It's there for you to see. The highlights in yellow are the existing egresses, and then the verbiage on the left side is what we would do to each one. Okay, can we move on from this slide?
Sure.
Okay. And obviously we've met with Chiefs Nelson and Legendre. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. We would develop both with them and with the CCC a compliant diversion prevention and emergency SOPs plan. We require all employees to participate in the CCC diversion training programs on a regular basis. We will be implementing a comprehensive seed to sale tracking system. We will also be implementing our own management reporting system to maintain stricter controls of inventory. We will collaborate with the chiefs to design and implement emergency notification and response protocols. We will build in redundancies into the systems. We will ensure that there is full video systems with cameras in the right places as the chiefs direct us. And we will make sure there's sufficient internet and cell phone service to deal with the cement environment internally. Those were the concerns that the chiefs mentioned up front. Any questions on that?
At the moment, no.
Okay, I think we're down to our last two slides here. Community impact plan. Obviously, where practical, we will give priority to hiring local qualified vendors for the construction and maintenance and continue operation of the facility. We will do the same thing in terms of our staffing beyond the executive management, all of which you've seen resumes for. So those are already people that we've picked, but everything else, where practical, we will hire from the town where possible. We will work cooperatively with the town and all boards and commissions and officers and all officials to comply with all local laws and ordinances. We'll work with the town officials to agree on a mutually acceptable community impact fee. I've proposed something in the HCA, which I think is quite substantial. And then we'll work with the town planner and during the special permitting process to make sure that we take care of all the wetlands and public use trails. Any other questions on that? That would include Annie's hiking trail, by the way, which is near number 72 Bolton Woods.
Okay. Now, at the moment, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Jenny, last slide, please. Okay, this kind of lays out the long-term hoped for path to a full license and opening. I can go through it if you want, but basically, step by step, but basically we would hope to open by May 1 of 2023. If you'd like me to go through the steps, I'm happy to do that.
At this
I'm
point,
fine.
I think we're okay at this point in time. We don't need to go through any detail.
Okay, unless you guys have any follow-up questions, that'll do it for our presentation. We would like to thank you for your time again tonight. Thank you very much.
I do have a follow-up question.
Sure.
I do not live in that part of town, but I do live in a part of town that during the summer, there'll be brownouts momentarily. And you're going to need grow lights for 20,000 or 30,000 square feet. You're going to have multiple filters, recycling air and using electricity to charge particles and all that stuff. And you're going to have a HVA system. Is there already sufficient electrical service to that property? Or have you talked to National Grid or whoever about upgrading it, or again, because my experience in my part of town is that a facility like this would be a big additional drain on the system, on the capabilities.
Yeah, we have talked amongst ourselves about what we think the ampage need is. We think it's going to be about 6,000, is it watts? I can't remember what the right measurement is. Eric is probably more qualified to talk about it than I am. Whatever infrastructure needs to go in the building will be go into the building, and we will also have redundancies as far as this is concerned, because we really can't afford to have things not working for a while. So
well, I'm also concerned about the other businesses across the street and the people who live in that neighborhood.
Once we're approved, so what my firm would do, we do electrical engineering as well. We would determine the total demand on the total connected load and the total demand, and we supply a work order to National Grid, or I'm not. Are you National Grid there? I'm not. National Grid or Eversource. And the engineers from National Grid would determine if they have enough available power in the street.
Okay.
And then we would have to bring in a new service to the building. The majority of marijuana grow facilities do require a new service be brought into the building, but they do, National Grid or whatever utility would not bring in a service if the power in the street was not available.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
And upon loss of power, we would have a backup generator so that they would be able to, ensure that they're not losing plants if there's a long period of a power outage.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Selectmen?
At this time, no.
Okay.
I do believe I did hear you, Mr. James, indicate that I know you've made some suggested edits to the HCA, but your legal counsel has not looked at them as of yet. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
We,
Mr. Lowe, then would it be prudent not to do anything or discuss the HCA until we've gotten something from Mr. James that has been reviewed by their counsel based upon Mr. James's edits?
No, I don't think so, Mr. Chairman. I would recommend that the board vote to enter into negotiations tonight. We will engage our counsel. Our counsel already has. I gave him the draft version 2 weeks ago. He's already vetted it. Mr. James, it's in Mr. James' interest to get his counsel involved as quickly as possible, and I'm sure he will. So no, I mean, that's, Mr. James can negotiate however he wants, but I would not suggest holding it up.
No. I'm not suggesting holding up starting the negotiation, but we should not be opining on that document tonight until.
We should not, no.
No, we should not be opining on it until we get something back from their counsel.
That's correct.
Okay, that's all.
That's correct. I mean, when the board will weigh in is when the negotiating team, which I assume will be Brian Falk and me, has something that's been mutually agreed upon between the two parties to then present to the board, the select board.
Correct. Yeah, but that doesn't preclude us starting the negotiations, but.
That's correct.
But not tonight.
Not tonight. No, tonight is the first step in the
There you go.
process.
That's all I wanted to know. Okay,
any other questions of any kind from anybody else?
Mr. Lowe, should given the fact that Goodleaf Holdings is having I believe a public meeting on the 27th, should we be entertaining questions tonight, or should we defer those until after Goodleaf has had an opportunity to discuss this with the public and whoever wishes to attend that meeting?
I suggest that public comment be deferred to the next meeting. It'll give Mr. James and his outfit a chance to refine their final presentation for Monday night. I'm sure many questions will be answered Monday night. Many questions may remain. And the way that I envisioned the next select board meeting was early on, very early on in the meeting, there would be a public comment section for people to weigh in on that time before there's any discussion about the HCA.
Okay.
That would be excellent.
Yep, I think that's a good way to proceed. Okay, so
Would you like a motion?
I think we have concluded this portion of the meeting. I do not believe we have anything else outstanding, so I guess at this point I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Oh, Mr. Chairman,
Wait a
please,
minute, we want a motion for the HCA, don't we?
Yeah.
I need a motion from the board to enter into negotiations on the HCA.
Okay, then I'll take a motion for that.
I move that the town of Bolton enter into negotiations with Goodleaf on a host community agreement, and that the Board of Selectmen authorize the town administrator and legal counsel to negotiate on the town's behalf.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Roll call, Sikansky,
Aye.
Keep,
Aye.
Waisaki.
Aye.
Thank you.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for your time. We're going to leave. Thank you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Roll call, Sikansky,
Aye.
Keep,
Aye.
Waisaki.
Aye.
Thank you. And the time for the record is 8:41 PM.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Thank you.